What's going on, folks? My name is Josh. You guys are watching The Outdoor Dude. Thanks for coming back to the channel. In today's video, we're going to be talking about my opinion on the 2 best rod and reel setups you can take with you bank fishing. So let's go. Now, when it comes to bank fishing, you can only bring what you can carry, and you might be 3-4 miles away from your vehicle, and you might have forgot something. And that is a bummer situation to be in. Once you're out there, you're out there. Now, there's a couple different situations you can find yourself in when you're bank fishing. You can be that minimalist guy, bring just a couple lures in your pocket, 1 rod, and go on out there. But you're not going to be ready for all the situations you're going to come across, and you're limiting yourself on opportunities. Or you could be the other side of things and be the guy that brings far too much with him, and you're going to be really discouraged to walk as far as you may need to go to get where the fish are. With that said, I like to ride somewhere in the middle and carry as little gear as that I can get away with, but as much gear as I feel I can carry for a long period of time, if that makes sense. Now, when it comes to rod and reel, I'm going to apply this exact same logic. So I want to pick a rod that will do it all. Now, that might be something different depending where you are in the country, but I'm in upstate New York, and fishing here, I truly believe I can get away with 2 rods for just about every situation I'm going to come across.
Look at that thing.
Now, my theory behind this is, like I said before, I'm fishing in upstate New York. So there's a lot of situations I know I'm going to find myself in, and others I know I'm not going to find myself in. So with this information, I can weed out some specialized rods or some rods that I know I'm not going to need, and you're going to be able to do the same thing. In my situation, I can weed out the extra heavies and the extra lights. But I'm definitely going to want a spinning rod for the smooth drag and finessier side of things. But I'm also definitely going to want a baitcaster for the power and efficiency and all the other things that make a baitcaster great. So first up, let's talk about a spinning rod. I'm going to pick a medium powered rod. Now, I think that's about just enough that I need to handle most of the species and situations I'm going to come across.
Fish on, folks.
I have found myself in the past catfishing with friends up north with only a medium powered rod on me. Although it's an ugly stick in the clip that you're watching, it's still just a 7-foot medium powered rod, and that rod is bending at some points almost next to the cork. The whole rod is bent right over, but it can still handle big fish if you know how to fight them.
I just got to tire him out enough. He's got a big mark on him too. We got him!
When you're fighting big fish on light gear, you need to use rod, reel, line, hook, and skill all together to get that fish to the bank. So I do not recommend that for the beginner, but the average situation I'm going to find myself in here in the north is going to be perfect for a medium powered rod. Now, when it comes to rod lengths, I want this thing to be no shorter than 6'6" and no longer than 7 foot. 7 foot is great to make those really long casts, but if you find yourself fishing overgrown woods and banks with brush and sticks and trees and all sorts of stuff around your rod tip, you're going to want to go with that 6'6".
Tip of the day, guys, when you are bank fishing and you've got areas like this that just have a ton of tree branches all over the place, use a shorter rod. I would definitely not be using a 7-footer. 6'6", 6'10", something like that. Right now I'm using a 6'6".
And that'll give you the extra bit of clearance you need to swing your rod tip around and make those casts that you need to make. Next up, we're going to be talking about reels. And when it comes to reels, I like a 2000 to 3000 series reel. The 2000 is about as small as I would go, especially if you're just fishing for bass and panfish and stuff like that. Then the 3000 is about as large as I would go, especially if you might find yourself fishing for catfish at some point during the day or something larger like northern pike, something that likes to fight a bit and run from the bank. That 3000 series reel is going to be perfect. Now, when it comes to gear ratio, I don't worry too much about that. As long as you're not going so low, it just becomes arduous to fish all day. But most spinning reels are right around in the same pocket of 5 to 6 to 1 to 1 or somewhere like that. Now, I like to spool that up with about a 15-pound braid, and that's probably right in the pocket of where you're going to need to be just about anywhere in the country for finesse fishing. But what I like to do is carry 8, 10, and 14 to 15 pound fluorocarbon leaders in my backpack, so I'm ready for finesse situations like ultra finesse. Then got that 10 pound for a little bit of stained water finesse situations, and you got that 15 pound for the heavier fishing situations when you're fishing in grass and you're gonna have to pull that fish with the grass back, I like that 15 pound. And because of this, I really like this setup for one of my fishing rod choices because it's so dang versatile and you can fish so many different situations with that one spinning rod. Next up, we're moving on and talking about my baitcaster setup. Now keep in mind, folks, I am fishing upstate New York. This isn't Florida, this isn't Texas, and this dang sure isn't the big fish part of the country. With that said, the rod, power, and action that I'm going to be choosing is a very common one, and it's the one that I think most bank anglers should be using when fishing for bass. I use this rod and reel selection for a multitude of different baits and techniques, and I have at least 6 of them in my collection. Now this rod and reel is going to be good for everything from Texas rigs, topwater frogs, jigs, spinner baits, buzz baits, and we're talking about this 7-foot medium heavy fast action rod. Not too long and it's not too short. It's not too light and it's not too heavy, and it's got just enough tip and backbone to do just about everything you're going to need it to do when you're bank fishing for bass. Now some of you boat fishermen are probably watching this at home going, man, that is a short rod, that's too dang short for a medium heavy, and I'd agree with you if we were talking about fishing on the boat. But right now we're talking about fishing on the bank. But if I were on the boat, I would be picking a 7.3 medium heavy fast action rod. But when you're bank fishing, there tends to be a lot of weeds out in front of you, maybe even some bushes. Couple that with overhanging tree branches, a shorter rod will come in handy when you're fishing from the bank and get you caught up a lot less when you're trying to do techniques like walk the frog and point your rod tip right down in front of you. Or when you're really trying to set the hook and swing that thing above you, you need as much rod clearance as you can get. Now we're going to talk about Baitcaster reels. What kind of reel am I going to put on this thing? Well, when it comes to Baitcaster reels, the higher the speed you go, the less torque you have. And the lower the speed you go, the more torque you have. And just like I talked about with rod power selection, I'm going to try to ride somewhere in the middle. Now keep in mind, this is bank fishing. So I've chosen the power rod that I chose because I want to be able to fish a variety of different lures in different situations. So I need this reel to give me all the power that I can get out of it. When you're bank fishing, you don't have the opportunity like a boat angler to set the hook on that fish and chase it down with the boat and pull it up out of that thick stuff. So we got to set the hook on that fish and winch the thick stuff and the fish back to the bank.
Oh my God! That's a big fish, dude. What is that? Big northern. Dude, look at this northern pike. How are there northerns this big in here? I can't even cut it. Holy sh!
Now with that said, I'm going to go with a 7-1-1 or a 7-2-1. Something of a higher quality though, with brass gears and carbon drag system of upwards of 17 to 20 pounds. And I want that so I can again winch that fish back to the bank and have it last me at least a season or 2. It's not so fast that I lose out on a lot of torque, and it's not so slow that I can't keep up with the fish if the dang thing rides right at me after I set the hook. Now I'm going to spool that reel up with a 15-pound fluorocarbon. If you're down south, Florida, Texas, fishing for larger fish, maybe go a little bit bigger, 17, 18 pounds. If you're fishing somewhere even further north than me, I guess, go with something a little bit lighter, maybe 14 to 12 pounds. But I think a 15-pound fluorocarbon is, again, right in the middle and right in that sweet spot, so we could cover a lot of different situations. Now when it comes to brands, there's a lot of great stuff out there. Everybody likes their own different stuff, and I fish a different brand of braid than I do with my fluorocarbon. I've been playing around with a lot of different fluorocarbons the past couple years, and the one that I've come across that is the best in my opinion, the one that works the best for me, is the Seaguar Red Label. For you guys that stuck around this long, here's a little tip that I like to use so I'm ready for even more situations. I keep an extra reel in my backpack spooled up with 30 to 50 pound braid. So if I find myself fishing really heavy grass, a really heavy fishing situation, I can put that reel on the rod and be ready for topwater frog fishing or punching or something that braid might be called for. Now for me, my favorite braid so far right now is the Guggen 30 pound or 50 pound braid. I get it. Guggen's a polarizing topic in the fishing community. I personally don't understand why, but I understand that everybody's got their own opinion and they're entitled to that. So if you don't like Guggen, there's a lot of great options for braided fishing line out there. Just find one that you like and rock that. Alright guys, so being that I am a budget angler, this combo in the end for me is going to look a lot like a Guggen Green Series 7-foot medium heavy fast action rod with a Cast King Royal Legend GT reel on that. Or maybe even an Abu Garcia Vengeance rod from Walmart with a Abu Garcia reel on it, or a Kalex reel, which is a reel from a subsidiary of Pure Fishing. I got a review on that. You can check that, a link in the description if you want to see that reel. And again, and being that I am a budget angler, the spinning rod choice that I tend to carry with me on most days when I'm bank fishing is going to be the 6'6" or 7-foot Abu Garcia Vengeance with an Akuma Strata 6 reel spooled with 15-pound Guggen braid. For leader lines, carry what you like, but I recommend an 8, a 10, and a 15-pound fluorocarbon. Alright folks, those are going to be the 2 rods that I think are the best choices for you to pick if you're going to only have 2 rods when you go bank fishing. What are your guys' favorites? What do you think I might have left out? Let me know down in the comments. Thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure you smash that like button for me. It really helps with pushing these videos out. We're trying to do a lot more this year that I'm feeling better after having Lyme disease. Dang. We're back, dude. Like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.